Every year, hundreds of young people travel the country and disappear.
He doesn't know much, my brother. Kinda stupid.
Come on in, kids. Have a look around.
Hello?
All he cares about is that foolish museum of his. I hate him. One day I'm going to get rid of him. He makes me wear these stupid masks. You know why? Because I'm handsome.
Like many people in the film business, I am a product of film school. I went to University of Texas at Austin. I went as undergraduate and a graduate in graduate school. I was very lucky to benefit from a lot of institutional support. I received grants for all of my films except the first one. And my thesis film was made with a grant from the Directors Guild. And it was actually the third film I had made about mannequins. Somehow I came up with this idea. It's kind of a Twilight Zone story about a blind man who lived up at the top of a theater. And he lived with all these mannequins that were stored up in the attic. And that became sort of the gist of The Spider Will Kill You. And it subsequently it was a finalist in the Student Academy Awards. That got me an agent, and it got me an American Film Institute internship on a film directed by Peter Hyams called Capricorn 1. I spent a year on that film, and this was right before I did my first feature, so I had the good fortune of being able to see how a film was made. I was reading the trades, and I read this article about a man I had met when I was in film school. He was getting ready to produce a TV show. So I sent him my script with a letter introducing myself and saying that I had met him at UT. And I got a call a few weeks later from the story editor of the TV series, and he had read my script and he wanted to know if I wanted to come in and take a look at the pilot and maybe write for the show. And I said, sure. And so I go into the building, come into the theater, and it's a theater full of these older, all-white, all-male episodic writers. And they were very unhappy. They were all grumbling because you're not supposed to have more than 6 screenwriters at a pilot screening. And they were going to call their agent, they were going to call the Writers Guild and complain. At any rate, I sit down and an assistant comes in and says, so we're going to look at the pilot and then the producer will come down and talk to you. So we looked at the pilot and lights come up and there's no producer. And these writers wait about 2 minutes, and then they just en masse got up and they all walked out of the room, and 28 of them went down the hallway that way where they were parked. 2 of us went this way where we were parked, and we ran into the producer. And he said, where is everybody? And he said, well, they left. And he said, well, you guys want to write for the show? And he said, yeah, sure. That's how I got my first writing job. While I was making The Spider Will Kill You, Tobe Hooper was making Texas Chainsaw Massacre in Austin. And a lot of the people who worked on my thesis film worked on Chainsaw. And Chainsaw came out and it was a big hit. It was this low-budget horror film, and it launched Tobe Hooper's career. So I was thinking that that would be a good model. And a friend of mine, Larry Carroll, moved to LA, and we decided to come up with a feature film. We would attach ourselves, I would direct it, and he would produce it, and we would launch our careers like Tobe Hooper did. We took it to 3 people. We sent it to Sam Arkoff, who was a very famous producer of genre films, and we sent another copy to Bruce Cone Curtis. I don't remember how we knew him. I ended up working for him on The Seduction. And we gave it to Charlie Band. And we never heard from Sam Arkoff. Bruce would wanted to do it, but he didn't want me to direct it, and he didn't want Larry to produce it, and he would give us just a small change for the script, so we passed. So we only had Charlie left, and Charlie liked the script, and he said, "How do I know you can direct?" And I showed him my thesis film, The Spider Will Kill You. And I had done all of the mannequins coming alive in this thesis film. And so he said, all right, you can direct. We had to cast a name actor. And this was a $300,000. The budget for the whole film was $300,000, and we had $50,000 for a name star. And there is a list that you get from the various talent agencies of the prices of their stars. So there's a $50,000 list. So we got the list of the $50,000 actors. Jack Palance was the first actor that we sent it to, who seemed to fit. I think he probably fit the casting the best. But we had been told certain stories about, you know, what would happen if he liked the script and what we would have to do, but he passed. We sent it to Gig Young, was our second choice. He was probably way out of our league, and the fact that he was on this $50,000 list was probably not a good sign. He turned us down, and I don't remember how long it was after that. He murdered his wife and then killed himself. This is a two-time Academy Award-winning actor. This is a horrible story. So our third choice was Chuck Connors, and we sent it to Chuck Connors and heard back that he wanted to do it. I met him first when he came to do, we had to do a life cast to make some mannequin faces that he was going to be wearing. Actors want to test their director, and we were just hanging around while people were getting their life mask made, and at one point he came up and stood over me. He was 6'6", so he was towering over me, and he looked down and I looked up, and he said, "Do you want to fight?" And I said, "No." "Is there a reason why I would want to fight?" And he laughed. He came from sports. He was a baseball star, actually, when he got into the movies. And so he just sort of, he had no training at all. He just would do it. And I learned a lot from him. He taught me, the very end of the movie, he said, when we were getting ready to do his death scene, he said, "You want me to do a Brody?" And I said, "I don't know, what is a Brody?" And he explained that there was this theater actor named Brody who would do these very exaggerated long death scenes in the plays that he would do in. So I said, "Yeah, let's try a Brody." And so he does, you know, in his death scene, he does this long exaggerated death scene. It's really great. So we had our star, and then the other casting was we didn't have a casting director. We had relationships. The producer had relationships with agents, so we were sent actors, and we were sent Tanya Roberts, who we cast. She didn't have a lot of experience, but she was extraordinarily beautiful. And she was a good choice. The female lead was Jocelyn Jones, and I had seen some of her movies, and she was a very trained actor, and it was a real delight to work with her. I didn't know anything about working with actors at the time, and Jocelyn was the one who taught me the most about working with actors because I made the most mistakes with her. The first day, I think, since I had never worked with professional actors before, I worked like I had worked with the student films that I had made, and we do a take, and I gave her a line reading, and she just snapped at me, and she said, "Don't give me line readings." And I said, "I won't. What is a line reading?" Robin Sherwood we found, John Van Ness we found. All of the actors were just from auditions except for Chuck Connors.
Welcome to the Slauson Museum.
My production designer was really, his official title was art director, Bob Burns. I did not know Bob from Austin, although he was from Austin. He had worked on Chainsaw. He had worked on Hills Have Eyes. He had really strong credits. His work on Texas Chainsaw Massacre as an art director was really superior. He was great as a practical, hands-on art director, and he was one of the best scroungers that you'll ever find. You know, he could get anything, and he was great at getting things for no money or little money. I wrote a sort of a manifesto. It was a memo to all of the mannequin effects people. And it was basically the approach that I wanted everyone to take in terms of how these mannequins should look and how they would come alive and the kind of thing that we wanted to do. So he got us a lot of mannequins for the very small amount of money that we had. And he did all the physical work of cutting their, you know, putting in glass eyes in there that we could move, making the jaws move, all of the sort of mechanical effects. So Bob was responsible for all the sets, all the Slosson's Museum, and all of these sort of bigger, more important sets that we had during the movie.
This is for you.
No.
No.
I stayed friends with Bob for all these years, and I would always get a Christmas card from him that was hand-drawn and had his name. And I came home one day and I got this card in the mail, and I knew it was him. I recognized, you know, and I opened it up, and it was a suicide note, and it was him explaining why he had killed himself, and he had sent this note to his friends, and it's how we all found out, and it was really sad. It was the strange thing on this particular film. We had a lot of sons of famous people or daughters of famous people. Jocelyn Jones was the daughter of Henry Jones, who was a famous character actor. And my second assistant director was David Weiler, who was the son of William Wyler, who was a very famous director. We hired Nick von Sternberg, the son of the great Joseph von Sternberg, the famous German director. Nick was a late in life child, if you will. Joseph von Sternberg was an older gentleman when he had Nick. And Nick didn't have a lot of films, but he had a lot more, you know, one film would be a lot more than I had as a director. Nick had done some shooting and he had some features under his belt, and so I was really lucky. I learned a lot about staging and filmmaking from Nick. We just came into making this film at this particular time when you had a lot of people that were sons and daughters of famous people, because that's how the industry had worked up to that point. I think it changed now, and it doesn't happen nearly as much.
We are going to have a party. How do I look, huh? How do I look?
We had the quietest set of any set that I've ever seen, because my AD, Ron Underwood, was very quiet, I was very quiet, and Nick was very quiet, and we just kind of whispered among the three of us. And in fact, there were some agents of the actors who came to the set, and they were just so bothered that somebody wasn't yelling. The beginning of the movie is where Woody, you know, stumbles upon this broken down gas station, and he goes into this back room, and there's a mannequin, and all of these horrible things happen to him. He's trapped, his hand is stuck into this hole in the wall, in the door that he's made, and all of these things fly out of the cabinet. And I think Bob was the one who came up with the idea of turning the set on its side, so that the cabinet is up on the ceiling and the camera is down where Woody would be, and it's just gravity. Bob and I were on top of the back of the cabinet and there was a hole in the cabinet, and we were just throwing bottles and cans and things down, and it was just gravity. Then there was a camera to the side that was tilted that would see things fly across the screen. That is how we did the cabinet. It took us 2 days to film. It would have taken us 20 days if we used wires. We had some effects in other scenes which were wire effects, where the Tanya Roberts character is killed. She's trying to escape in the museum, and the historical characters have come alive, and the Indian throws a hatchet and it lands right next to her, and then he throws a knife and it stabs her in the back of the neck. And that's just a wire from a block of wood under her hair that we taped to her neck to right off camera, and we put the little eyelets on the knife so you could slide it across the wire, and we would just slide it down the wire and it would hit her neck and stuck in there. That sound effect, by the way, when you see her death scene, it's very effective, and it's mostly effective because of the sound of that knife hitting her neck. And it's really the effect knife itself sticking into the block of wood that was taped to her neck. It wasn't anything else but that. And we just left that in because it was just the most horrendous sound you can imagine. The most asked question, I think, is the meaning of the ending of the movie. I was online and I was on some blog, and they were talking about Tourist Trap, and somebody posted, can somebody please explain the ending of the movie to me? And at this point, there are so many fans of Tourist Trap that immediately there were, 50 replies, and there were 50 different explanations of the ending, none of which were my interpretation of the ending, or none of which were my intention, but that people can come up with all different ways to explain the ending, I think is just great. The way we came up with the very last shot, which is where Molly is driving the Jeep away, it's one shot. We had one shot at this. We did it one time. The vulture trainer got the vulture to do his wings, and I call action, and the wing comes down, and then the other comes down, and the crane comes down, and we see Molly coming around the bend, and she comes closer and closer and closer. And in the script it says, and she has a crazy smile on her face. And then there's a freeze frame. So when we were getting ready to shoot that scene, Jocelyn came up to me and she said, "How do you want me to do that?" And I said, and again, I didn't know anything about acting. And I said, you just have this crazy look on your face, and you come, and she said, "That doesn't help me at all. What am I supposed to, And so she went away, and she came back, and she said, "All right, I know what I'm going to do. You're no help at all." And she said, "Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be 8 years old, and I'm going to my friend's birthday party, and I'm just happy." So she has her one foot up on the dashboard, and her who used to be her friends are now turned into mannequins or just stacked up in the back, and she's happy. And she's got this smile on her face because she's going to this birthday party with her friends. I went to film school with Ted Nicolau, and he moved out and was working as an editor first on Roar, and then he started working for Charlie Band. I had worked with him in film school. He'd been my director of photography on my thesis film, on the film before that. So I had worked with Ted quite a bit. One of the stories that I think is a fun story with Tourist Trap, there was a point when we ran out of money in post-production, and they came and took all the equipment. So we didn't have anything to cut on. We were cutting on flatbeds at the time. And fortunately, we had an account at MGM, that was our lab, which meant that when we didn't have a machine to cut on, we could at least go and start. We had a list of the sound effects that we needed. So we went to the MGM sound library. What ended up happening is we found a lot of sound effects. We did not have enough money to have a sound effects person, so we had to do our own sound effects. If you watch Tourist Trap, you see sound effects from all these great old MGM movies, including gunshots from Gone with the Wind. There are these Morlock sounds from The Time Machine that are in the scenes with the mannequins at the end coming alive and sort of haunting Jocelyn Jones' character. Even though it was a very tedious task, it's kind of fun to look back on the kind of things we were able to put in the movie.
Now, you are one of us.
Tourist Trap, where beautiful young people looking for excitement are tricked.
What I think happened is the film was misrated. In those days, when you made a horror film, it had to be R, and you wanted a hard R because that's what people want when they go see a movie. They want a movie that's going to really scare you and really disturb you. And we thought we were making an R movie. We thought the images and the accumulated violence was pretty. It's not a slasher movie. It's not a bloody movie, but it's an intense, crazy, about mannequins coming alive, which is really frightening. So we ended up with this mild rating, and it hurt us at the box office. But as it ran its course, and the next course was syndicated television and television, because it was PG, it could play Saturday afternoon TV. And it did. And all of these little kids, the mother says, I gotta work, go watch TV. And so all these kids are sitting on the floor watching Tourist Trap Saturday afternoon. And you have all these screaming mannequins and all these horrible things that are happening in this movie. They're way too intense for little kids. And they all see this, they see this PG movie.
How's that?
Let's eat.
That's what I said. Let's eat.
And for years, every generation of people that, for about 30 years, they came through the door would say, I saw that movie when I was 7 years old and it scared me to death. And I think there is generations of little children who were, wrongly disturbed by a Saturday afternoon TV show.
Oh, the crack is good. Oh, I got to fix that.